Hey everybody, welcome back to the Iron Tequila Podcast. It's your host, Jordan Martis, and myself, Tequila Poppy. We're glad to see you back. Last week we were talking about the 5 truths that men need to hear.
Yep.
And, we touched on those 5 last week. Today we're going to take a little deeper dive into lesson number 1.
And this is a big one.
This is a big
really
one.
Really is.
The concept that no one's coming to save you.
Jesus Christ, maybe. But
other than that's probably farther down the road.
You probably like there's some results a little sooner than when Jesus comes for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in that vein, really what we're talking about today is personal responsibility. The truth is that when nobody's coming to save you, it's not going to be your girlfriend. It's not going to be your wife. It's not going to be your parents. It's not going to be your kids.
The government.
That's a big one. A lot of people think that the government, somebody other than themselves or somebody they know is going to come and save them. Bring them a business, bring them a lot of money, bring them a monthly stipend being thrown around now.
A job offer.
Yeah. That's a huge one too, right?
Free food, free housing,
And those are the types of things that we're running into as a society now, where it's the opposite of personal responsibility, right? So we're going to do a little deeper dive, another buzzword, into the aspect of responsibility in your life as a man. So,
well, and this is a critical life skill. As a man, we're often called upon to be the providers in relationships, producers in society.
Yep.
And it's a heavy burden to bear. And if we're not accountable, if we're not achieving those goals, then we're seen as a failure.
Well, who sets those goals out for us is a great starting point.
Well, I mean, there's certainly a personal accountability. I like to maintain accountability from a personal perspective, a personal standpoint, but a lot of people succumb to societal pressures.
Mm-hmm. Ambition. Today a lot of kids, a lot of young men in particular, are told that don't be aggressive in school. You're going to hurt somebody, or you're going to get out of line. You're going to break something. The research has shown that young boys in particular, if they don't go to bed tired every day, they're going to become anxious. That's just the way that the human body, the human genome has been produced. So at the end of the day, it's a positive thing for all of us to exercise, to take on the responsibility of treating our body the way that it's ideally going to be healthy.
Well, not just our bodies, but our minds and our attitudes and our motivation, keeping our motivation alive and active. And that's one of the biggest challenges I think a lot of people, but men in particular, face these days with staying motivated.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Where do you think motivation comes from? For you personally, let me ask you that to begin with.
It's changed for me throughout my years as I've evolved and matured as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But I think initially, when you think about growing up, we're kind of relying on our parents to motivate us,
mm-hmm.
and
external
and other mentors, right?
Yep.
Your coaches.
Yep.
If you, I know you played sports and throughout school, and I did as well, and we relied on coaches and teachers and other mentors.
Yeah, the authority figures.
Yeah, to provide that. But at some point, it becomes a personal responsibility.
As long as, well, I don't know. That's a sticky one for a lot of people, because if there's no transition to maturity, and the concept where somebody is going to come and save me, namely learned in school, right? Because we have these disciplines, we have these challenges where, it's not the rules that we make up in life. It's somebody else's rules that we've got to follow.
We're conforming to societal rules or institutional rules.
You got it. And so at that point, we choose. And most of us as children, nowadays anyway, we don't really have much of a choice. We're told conform or else. Conform or you go to the principal's office. Conform or else you get suspended. Conform or fill in the blank. And there are tons of kids nowadays. If you watch the news, it's pretty common where revolution in the schools is a daily challenge teachers are battling. Jeepers. I don't know what the answer there is, but if we continue to teach that out of children, what is going to be taught in to them is that somebody is going to come and save them.
Yeah. I think society has devolved to a point where this concept that no one is coming to save you is kind of antithetical to what they're teaching in school. To your point, it's the opposite of what kids are being taught these days. But the sad reality is that when those kids become adults and they are faced for the first time in their life with accountability, and with the realization that nobody is coming to save me and I'm in trouble, at some point maybe that's the catalyst some of these kids need to respond and become more self-responsible.
Reliant, and that kind of blends into the other rules, but we don't want to get into those too much right now. Obviously, I was thinking in particular the resiliency aspect, and that's something that I know you teach within the financial realm, and the self-discipline realm. So the question for me that comes up is twofold. Number one, where did these habits and patterns, the things that we are doing on a daily basis, where did they come from? We've touched on that a little bit, but that leads directly into the second part of the question of what belief or principle in life is at the foundation that we, as men in particular, tend to conform to without questioning, right? And one of them for me comes up right away is that authority is always right. And if you don't conform, there's going to be a massive punishment in one way, shape, or form.
Consequences.
Social consequences, monetary consequences, fill in the blank. What are those consequences going to be for bucking the system, right? So my mindset when I approach these things is like, what are the underlying, the base level things that must exist for that thought to be adopted and continued throughout our upbringing? Is it a foundation of empowerment or disempowerment? Is it a foundation of the world is safe or the world is not safe? Those types of things. And there's not too many of those. We don't have to get into a full explanation of philosophy and the way that works. We're talking more about the practical application of, what happens when I get to the realization that there really is nobody that's going to save me. I'm for example, 28 years old, just lost my job 2 years ago and I can't find one. Alluding to what we were talking about earlier, somebody's going to come save me with a job offer, because I don't want to go work at McDonald's, but my parents are going to kick me out unless I find a job and start paying rent. Okay, this is a common scenario nowadays. Late 20s, early 30s. Especially with the onset and overhaul of our economy and the job force, the labor market with AI. A lot of this stuff is just going to keep moving and leave so many people behind. That's part of the reason we're doing this, is to make sure that people understand rule number one: nobody's going to come and save your ass. That's all there is to it. And therefore it's incumbent upon the individual to become a good problem solver. To find solution, to creatively think, and to process information and make sound decisions after gathering data and analyzing data. And there's so much. The challenges we're facing now are not when you and I were growing up. That a 15-year-old, 25-year-old now in 2025, not the same as 1992, 1987. I mean.
Well, you're dating us now.
That's okay. I have gray hairs for a reason.
With that age comes wisdom, and that's why we're here for you.
So, in the process, there's a few things that go along with nobody's coming to save you. And within that, lying to ourselves is a huge one. And really, that if we're able to transcend the truth, for ourselves, when we realize that this is actually a truth, that nobody is going to come and save you. People will try. Your mom might try to overmother you. Your dad might try to pay for everything. What's that going to do to our intrinsic value personally for ourselves?
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject that we need to delve into at some point, because we're talking about the significance and the importance of raising sound, self-sufficient, motivated, hardworking kids who become productive adults.
Yeah, next level.
Yeah, because if these kids don't get those tools early on, and if mom and dad continue to save them, they end up being 35 years old, still living at home, with their mom paying their cell phone bill.
No prospects.
No
girlfriend. No.
Well, and largely at that stage in life, they've lost the opportunity, more or less, to develop that skill set because they've been reliant on someone to come save them for so long that that it's a lot harder to teach an old dog new tricks at that point.
Yeah, absolutely, man. One of the lies, thinking through the process of what are the supports for this belief that could be available. I don't have to change is a big one, and that again is founded in lying to ourselves, right? So the starting point, in my opinion, is one of truth and 100% mine. Because if it's not yours, if it's not mine in life, it's somebody else's, right? If I don't take ownership to where the results are going to be my success or my failure, it doesn't matter what they are, the perspective that I'm choosing, that I take at every moment, is going to be the truth. Not lying to myself that, number one, somebody's coming to save me, and there's a way out. Eventually it will work. So the next step there is the reality check.
Yeah, and the sooner, I would argue, the sooner that happens, the better off.
The easier it is.
The easier it is, because you learn those lessons early. I used to tell my kids, you can learn things the hard way, or you can learn them from a mentor or someone like me, as your father, who's learned the lessons the hard way, and I can teach you those lessons. But at some point, you got to become. You've got to develop the skill set to problem solve on your own and to figure out your own path.
Yeah, and that problem solving skill set oftentimes is just set on the mantle and never developed for a lot of people who are in their 20s and 30s. That it becomes a disempowering mindset at a certain point. So what are the solutions? Besides the reality check, besides being upfront and honest with ourselves, what are some of the tangible things that our listeners can take away that they can implement today and tomorrow?
Well, I think one of the most important things you can do is find yourself a mentor. If, for example, you grew up in a household without a father figure, or without learning some of those, being provided some of those tools that are necessary for
the self-discipline,
for personal accountability and things like that. If you didn't grow up with that, I would encourage you to start listening to podcasts like ours, and other resources, and find a mentor, find some people who have that wisdom that you can draw upon. Yeah.
Are there any that you've used?
Oh boy, throughout my years, I have learned a lot. One of the most significant growing periods of my life was joining the Army at 18. So I had a pretty good upbringing. My 2-parent household, both educated parents, and I had some faint outlines of self-reliance.
Sure.
But boy, nothing smacks you in the face harder than being 18-year-old thrown into basic training. And,
no doubt.
Everybody's kind of enters it the same way, looking around like, where the hell am I?
Yeah.
But But iron is forged in fire. It's kind of one of the core principles that we teach on our podcast, and it really is true that iron is forged in fire. People grow when they are challenged, when they face hardship,
under pressure,
and under pressure. Yeah, diamonds are
great example.
Are formed under pressure, and so if you're constantly living a life wherein you're avoiding hardships, avoiding challenges, and you're never faced with difficult situations, you don't ever learn those lessons. You don't learn how to deal with hardships. Yeah. And then you find yourself, someone's coming to save me, right?
Drowning.
Hey guys, right?
Yeah.
Someone's coming to save me.
No, they're not there, and too many people get to where they're in their 20s and 30s and sometimes even 40s and 50s where we are in life. And, after restarting myself, and I know you have, it's, wow. That takes a different belief. That takes a different mindset, resilience. Not that we want to get into that right now, but, looking at the truth, looking at it completely without a bias from an ego perspective, man, that is freaking challenging. I'd love to hear how you've done it. One of the things that comes to mind for me, and maybe you can relate here, I lost my mom when I was 24, sorry. And through that process, it was blatantly obvious that nobody was coming to save me, my brothers, my dad, my family. Not even my family was going to come and save me or anybody. They didn't know how to handle it.
Everybody lacked that same experience.
Yes.
So there was nobody to seek guidance from.
Right. And so that was a real situation of, I have 2 younger brothers, my dad, and after losing my mom, she was not necessarily the glue, but she was part of the glue, right? Still together, pretty tight-knit family. And so when we lost her, it was a matter of recovery, hell, recovery, and then reestablishing life, right? And that was where I got my background to be able to be independent, and I'm independent to a fault at times now, and I've given that to my daughter in some ways, different ways, than how I've grown up. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a coping mechanism is what it ends up being, and it's still not completely taking on the responsibility if I'm living within that coping mechanism, So the 100% to me is that if I fall, I'm going to fall until I hit the bottom, until I've put in place the situation that is actually going to keep me from failing, and where that failure ends up is up to me. So when push comes to shove, nobody else is to blame, and nobody else is going to get paid when I'm successful.
So nobody's coming to save you, but they're also not going to be there to...
They're not going to share in spoils.
Right, they're not. Their hand's not going to be out when you make it.
You got it, absolutely. And that's part of pride to me. So, we start getting into the foundational beliefs, values, and principles. How proud am I? How does that apply to life? Is it applied in a way that is positive for me, negative for me, and then other people? Does it impact my family in a positive way? Does it impact my friends and coworkers, and the people who are responsible to me, the people who work for me if I'm in a leadership position? And I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this right now are in leadership positions and looking for some of these keys and tools to be able to move themselves forward in their careers. And again, the starting point there is 100% responsibility. The gentleman I work for is in my logistics position currently. Into the storm is our motto, if you will. The reason cows and bison are related. The biggest difference, cows run from the storm, which means they're going to be in it for quite a long period of time. Some way, shape, or form, the DNA in bison ends up to where they turn and run into the storm.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that philosophy, and I often say that the faster you face the challenge or face the storm in your analogy, the faster you push through it,
Yeah.
the faster you're going to be on the other side of it.
Yep. And that requires the accountability pivot, right? That turns to the point where we are faced at the proverbial fork in the road, right? I know you've seen a ton of those in your life, with your kids, with your career, with the divorce, with shit. I mean, at the end of the day, it's even things that contradict our foundational beliefs, values, and principles that are our philosophy of life. If we have something that's strong enough to contradict that and create some internal battles, what's known as cognitive dissonance, where in my opinion, the heart and the head don't align. At a certain point, things are not clear, and you got to go and do some soul searching. So when we get to that point, do we choose accountability, or do we choose the status quo? Right? Identifying those, becoming aware of those, is extremely powerful.
Yeah. And that's often the first step to taking action.
Yep.
To get push yourself through the storm.
Yeah.
So it's important to recognize it early. And
how do you do that? How have you recognized that when you've been? Let's say you're in a situation where you don't know where to go, and you're in your mid-20s. Try to recall something where, what action did you take? What was the background, and how did that action progress?
Boy, I'd like to say that I sat down philosophically and sat down and gathered data and analyzed it, and
what was the truth?
And made an intelligent decision based on the data. But that probably wasn't the case when I was in my 20s or 30s.
Yep.
That's how I choose to do it now, because it's an easier process for decision making. But it can be, we all are faced with those forks in the road in life, and you look at them and evaluate oftentimes those paths are the lesser, and it ends up being the lesser of evils, right? The
Which
path
one's going to cost me more?
Well, and the path of least resistance, you could also call that the lesser of evils. That's often the choice that people make, and that may not get you down the road where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the least resistant, least challenging path is not always the most productive.
Yep. You know what? Let's take a break for just a minute. Get into a couple of other things after this. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Iron and Tequila Podcast. We're your hosts, Tequila Poppy and Jordan Martis. We're starting our new series on the 5 truths that men need to hear now.
Number 1, nobody's coming to save you, and we know that's the truth. Number 2, you're not weak for struggling, you're weak for hiding it, which seems like a bit of an oxymoron. Number 3, confidence is not a feeling, it's a skill that can be developed.
On the 4th episode, we'll discuss what's killing men's edge. And then finally, we'll end up with helping you develop a plan to get started.
We'll cover this and a lot more in our upcoming series on the 5 truths that men need to hear now on the Iron and Tequila Podcast. Join us.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Good stuff. I wanted to ask you, Jordan, what are some of the ways that you approach kind of problem solving, and with the understanding that nobody's gonna save you? And was there a point? Yeah. And was there a point in time? I know after your mom died, that was a pivotal moment in personal development in that realm. But have there been other periods of time where you saw some exponential growth?
So,
Personally,
exponential growth has occurred for me typically after a period of challenge, and often associated with promotion, either externally or internally. Self-promotion for me means that I'm stepping up my game. Okay, I'm no longer going to embody the amateur stuff, the things that I deem as being immature, right? So in that process, there's a massive tool, a self-evaluation tool. Jordan Peterson has a couple online. We've got a couple that we're in development at this point to figure out, honestly, who am I? Right? If you don't know and you are unable to establish and back up your personal beliefs and why you are doing what you're doing, that for me is probably the biggest one. Get to know yourself is probably the biggest tool.
You got to figure that out. And I know I'm beating a dead horse here too.
That's okay.
But I've said it a few times. The sooner you figure that out, the longer you're going to be able to benefit from that knowledge in your lifetime.
Well, but that does require experience.
Yeah.
Not knowing what is out there means that there's no way to know what we like and don't like.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
There you go. And starting to understand that, well, now with the internet available and everybody having everything available in their pocket at any given time, you can go visit Malaysia and then New Zealand and then space and then under the water, all within a 2-minute span on your phone. Google Earth is phenomenal.
One place you can't go is Uranus.
I thought you were going to say inside the human mind, but you are correct.
Yeah, because we haven't gotten that far in the galaxy yet. But we digress. So some of the things that we can do, some of the advice that we can provide to our audience with getting comfortable with the realization that nobody's coming to save you.
I don't know, man. That's one of the most challenging because it's distressing. It is anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
It is sometimes emotionally. Man,
taxing and stressful.
Well, I'm thinking about after somebody's had like you've been fired, okay, or you lost a family member, or something that's moderately high on the trauma scale. A family member goes to prison or has something. What it is not as important as the experience of having trauma in our lives and not having the tools available to be able to process and separate the experience and the knowledge from the emotion. And this is a lot of years and that's packed into research and things, but the simple tools, awareness is probably the biggest key to all of that. So if there's any way that you can develop your awareness, podcasts,
books, if
distance mentors,
online learning,
there's a million ways that you can gain the tools. Instead of going and watching videos, choose where you spend your time. Go pick up a book.
Nourish your brain.
Yes.
A little bit.
A lot. If you can. But it's taxing because these things, when you start to read a book, 2 minutes in, my brain is going somewhere else, and there's no way, shape, or form I'm going to stay in that text unless I practice. Reading every day. Grant Cardone, I'm not sure if anybody's aware who he is. If it's worth doing every day. Is one of his axioms.
And it's worth doing well.
That
was one of the lessons I always taught my sons was, it's just a total waste of time to have to revisit things that you did poorly. Tasks that you were left incomplete or did a poor job on. So you're better off doing it right the first time.
You're gonna have to redo it.
Or way better than redoing it.
Well, part of the challenge there that you and I have faced, even starting this, is we have the motivation, we have the ability and skill set, yet we want to have it perfect.
Well, there's a little bit of paralysis by analysis that we've been challenged with,
and that's not abnormal.
With respect to the podcast, we've both suffered from this in trying to get the podcast, trying to produce the best quality product that we can at this point, just starting out. But we're all faced with those decisions on a daily basis, and the goal is to make the best decision possible with the information you have at the time. And no action is not a plan. Having no plan.
Okay, I agree with the no plan.
Is not a plan.
But no action. And this is something that's a weird kind of occurrence, phenomena, if you will, within planning. Because when we have a lot of information and we have an onslaught of information, sometimes there are things that are going to require a reaction.
Yeah.
Most of the time in life, those are not a requirement. That initial immediate reaction is not required. And this is something my dad and I have talked about quite a bit. And I don't remember where the concept came from. I think he might have brought it up. But taking no action is a path of action.
Sometimes that's absolutely true. I mean,
Right.
if you get in a car accident and you don't have a car,
A little different.
You don't necessarily have to decide to rush out and buy a brand new
I
car
get you.
that day.
Yeah. There you go.
You could maybe come up with a list of different ideas and different ways to solve it, short term with a long term permanent solution in mind.
Yeah. There's so many concepts that we could touch on here. There's many that are all involved, and there's not enough time here to do all of that. So our goal really is to try to distill most of this down. Give you a handful of actionable techniques, tactics within a broader strategy, that you can actually implement today and tomorrow. If that's the case, wonderful. We've done our job. Right? Let us know. If you think that's not the case, I'd like to know, what are the subject matters that you'd like to see. We have our own idea, but they might not be applicable to where you are in life, or they might be spot on.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Well, every situation is going to be unique. Every solution is therefore unique.
Yep.
Some of the things that we're talking about are not going to, one size does not fit all.
Yeah, you got that right.
And so, but if you only take one thing away from this conversation, I would encourage you to consider all options. Get creative with your problem solving. Think about different ways to solve problems. I think that's a skill set that is kind of dying. They don't really teach that in school anymore. It's just memorize a whole bunch of different stuff and then recite it for the test.
Yeah.
It does not create critical thinkers and problem solvers.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem that if you're not facing, you are seeing many of your peers facing if you're a young man in today's society, younger than probably 35 or 40 at this point, right? One thing that popped into my mind there, what are the landmines, or if you will, piles of dog shit that we got to avoid?
Pitfalls.
Thank you, pitfalls. Yeah. That's the PG version. What are the pitfalls we got to avoid here?
Yeah, with respect to what?
Thank you for the clarification, because it's pitfalls is a huge
piles of shit
aspect.
Also
of life.
Encompasses a lot of.
It does. So I guess the question is, within choosing how we move forward, with some sort of call to action, what we have some actionable aspects that we can move forward with.
Okay.
What are some of the big the things that you, our listener, might not be aware of that we may be, since might be removed a little bit in experience of life?
Yeah. In the Army, we call this actionable intelligence. What is the information you need that you can act upon? And there's a couple of things that come to mind when you ask me personally. One of the things I like to do is sit down. I'm kind of old school. I like to sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and just write, here's my dilemma. Here's some the pluses on one side and the negatives on the other side. And figure out, hey, let's think of all the positive outcomes or the positive aspects of this potential outcome, and then let's think of the potential negative aspects of it. And then when you write it all down, for me, it just helps me. I can sit there, I can visualize it, I can take all that information in at the same time. It helps me make a decision a little bit easier. That's one of the personal tools that I use when when I realize that, hey, nobody's coming to save me, I better figure this out. And phone a friend. I like to use the phone a friend.
Yeah, the game show type thing. Right?
Yeah. You got a couple of guesses, or you can phone a friend. And I've been fortunate in my life to surround myself with a lot of very smart, intellectual, hardworking, successful adults, men, and some women, and so if there's something I can't figure out, I like to bounce it off of somebody.
The mentor type thing.
Yeah.
Well, the what to avoid part, it very specifically was in that negative column. I think it was the Benjamin Franklin process of compare and contrast. I could be wrong there, but in that negative column, those are the things to avoid, right? Those are the landmines.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, contrasting that with the positive. Because if you just take one, generally you're not going to see the whole picture.
Yeah, right? That doesn't tell the whole story.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. And so the opposite is also true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we're only looking at the rose-colored glasses aspects, you know, we're going to get into whatever we're facing, the project or the relationship, and we're going to end up blindsided.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or making a decision based on a false set of data.
Yeah. That's a very, very common problem, you know, and once you get too far into the situation, there's no turning back. You know, marriage is a great example.
Oftentimes.
So, you know, figuring out that I am my own worst critic and my own savior before we get into a significant relationship and end up married, that's some of the things that I was never taught. You know, I mean, my dad, no matter how well-intentioned he is and was, simply didn't have the experience to say, you know, avoid these things, right? And if he did, he didn't communicate them. Maybe he did. Maybe it wasn't effective. Maybe I was just not very open.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I had a similar relationship with my dad.
Is that right?
Well, yeah. You know, especially when I was late teens, early 20s, my dad liked to offer a lot of advice, and some of it was good, and some of it just, you know, frankly, wasn't that contemporary or that applicable to my to my life. And you know, we can't, as we age, we have the benefit of some wisdom and some experience, but that doesn't necessarily mean that our perspective is relevant.
That's a great point. That's a very good point. Hindsight is 20/20.
Hindsight's always 20/20. Monday morning quarterbacks are the best quarterbacks in the league,
unless you're talking about the Monday night game, right?
True.
Right. I don't know, man. There's so much we could go over here. We might have to extend these truths into a little bit larger. You know, we're going to take each of these individually and, you know, get down into the details of actionable items, things to avoid, and some stories around them. But we'd like to bring some of your experiences here. You know, what have you found where you've gotten into a project and you discovered either in a positive way or a negative way that nobody's coming to save you? Work, you know, at home, with relationships, even with yourself, right? Because we get to a certain point, I know I've done this. I think I'll be more accomplished in another year or 2 or 3 years, and my future self will come save me. Another lie. Right? My future self cannot save me today. The only person who can save me today is me. So one of the questions that's come up there in my research and the distance mentors type thing, what would my future self tell me today? Right? Looking when I'm 65 years old in 20 years or so. You know, what would that perspective want me today to know? Okay, so these are some of the tools and skill sets and things that we can use and bring into our awareness today to fill in the blanks, to fill in the holes, to fill in the missing pieces in the puzzle of life, right? If we never ask those questions,
we're not getting any answers.
Hell no. They're gonna, you know, the piece is lost. I don't know if you've ever been putting a puzzle together and you get close to the end and there's a piece or a dozen pieces missing, right? The puzzle's never done. You know, and in my opinion, that's kind of where we are as humans. I don't see us as ever being a completed puzzle.
No, if you're not growing, if you're not evolving and learning, you're just complacent and stagnant.
Yep, or going the other direction,
or worse. Yeah. I mean, if you're all of those things, complacent and stagnant, but then you also spend too much time drinking and getting drunk and spending your time on other activities that are counterproductive, then you're going the wrong way, buddy.
Yeah. Well, you're probably here for a few of these things we've been talking about in the last minute or two. You know, you might be stuck. You might be in a situation where you don't have a solution. You know, you're looking for ways to move forward within your job or your relationship or your personal health, that type of thing. We'd love to help. So if there's specific questions that you'd like to pose, we'd love to bring those on. And we'll try to get the common ones. We'll try to hit the ones that are going to apply to the most people here that can help you. All right. The thing that I've found in life is that if my experiences, I know you found the same thing. Tequila. This is Tequila Poppy, by the way. I'm Jordan. Thank you for staying with us, by the way. This venture is new to us, and it's a lot of fun. Man, I just keep that excitement takes me over. There's nothing better than a new project, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in a position where you need help and you're looking for solutions, we're gonna have some links in the show notes. Right, should be down below here. Might be a link somewhere. The website,
ironandtequila.com.
Yep. And then we'll be on social too. So please come and join us, and engage, give us a conversation to be able to help you, right? That's why we're here. We'd love to help ourselves, but through the process, that's just going to be part of it. We've learned throughout our years and experience in life that if we can help other people, all of a sudden the solutions that we're seeking tend to materialize on their own. So, any final notes here today?
Final notes. I think our next episode we're going to talk about the second truth of the 5.
Yep. And not to be confused with the big 5 personality traits. These are truths we're looking at. We'll get into some personality traits later on. Number 2, though,
is you're not weak for struggling. You're weak for hiding it. And this is a big problem a lot of people, especially men, have these days. Is the society has told us to stifle our frustrations, stifle our disappointments, and keep those locked up inside.
Yep. Go to work and produce.
Yeah. Shut up and work and bring a check home. We're
be happy doing it.
And be happy, damn it. Be happy I gave you the opportunity to provide for me and bring home the bacon so I can eat.
The opposite is true in some circumstances too. So, it's not a man thing. It's not a female thing. It's a human thing.
Yeah. It's a human condition. But our next episode, we're going to be talking about, if you're struggling, which a lot of us do. Jordan and I have both struggled in our lives, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek help. Like we talked about before at the beginning of this show, iron is forged in fire.
Yep.
Diamonds are made under pressure.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean, just because nobody's coming to save you doesn't mean you have to do it all alone. It doesn't mean you're on an island, isolated, and there's nobody to seek guidance from.
Yep.
So that's why we're here.
Yep.
We hope you join us next week.
Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.